Hey, City Center Baptist Church family, it's Pastor Brad coming to you from DDQ headquarters. Digging Deeper question number 6 this week asks, what did Paul mean when he urged Timothy to keep close watch on himself and to persist in the teaching so that he would save himself and his hearers? 1 Timothy 4:16. Was the apostle advocating a work salvation or something else? The mission of the Christian faith is to pass it down through successive generations. Jesus commanded his disciples to make disciples of others. Paul instructed Timothy, what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. That's 2 Timothy 2:2. So, each generation of believers is responsible to transfer the faith to the next. If a particular generation fails in this assignment, the light of the gospel of Jesus is dimmed, and that generation becomes a mission field in need of the light rather than a mission base sending out the light. The Apostle Paul practiced what he preached. In the pastoral epistles of 1 and 2 Timothy and Titus, we read his personal letters to young leaders who were trying to give oversight to challenging churches during difficult days in trying circumstances. The world of the first century AD was callous and cruel. Paul's counsel to them is just as pertinent for us today. This provides the backdrop to the text of this past Sunday's message. The basic idea Paul conveyed in 1 Timothy 4:11-16 to his young son in the faith was, don't give any reason for others to look down on you, but every reason to look up to you. He went on to outline how Timothy could accomplish that goal by consistently practicing a godly life worth emulating, as well as remaining faithful to the gospel message delivered to him through the apostles. Commitment without compromise would ensure his ministry's effectiveness. However, at the end of this paragraph, Paul concluded that Timothy's persistence in godliness and faithfulness would save both himself and his hearers. What does this mean? The verb save is a future tense, but it is second person singular referring directly to Timothy. Was he to be his hearers' savior in some sense? Was Paul making salvation a work that a person can perform for their own and others' benefit? Considering Paul's clear teaching of the gospel elsewhere, we immediately reject any notion of a works salvation. Paul labored strenuously to emphasize that every person is saved by grace through faith in the finished work of Christ on the cross and vindicated by his resurrection from the dead. So then, in what sense could Timothy save himself and his hearers? The term saved or save is used in multiple ways in the Bible. It can refer to rescue from physical death or physical disasters or demonic oppression, as well as spiritual deliverance from judgment and damnation. In 1 Timothy 4:1-10, Paul warned Timothy about the deception of false teaching prevalent in his day, spiritual pride based on legalistic performance, and foolish myths that were a distraction from the truth. I believe it is in this sense that Timothy could save himself and his hearers. As he lived out his faith and carefully taught his flock of believers, he would be used by God to guard them from the deceptive distractions that would endanger their spiritual well-being. Timothy was to be on guard, protecting his sheep from ravenous wolves. This idea is paralleled in other scriptures. In Acts 20, verse 28, Paul specifically warned this same Ephesian church that fierce wolves would arise from among them to draw disciples after themselves. Romans 11:13-16 informs us that Paul hoped the Gentiles' embrace of the gospel would make the Jews jealous, thus prompting them to trust Christ. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, Paul shared that he wanted to keep himself under control, lest he be disqualified from ministry usefulness even after preaching to others. And in James 5, verses 19-20, Jesus' half-brother urged believers to pursue, rescue, and restore those who wander from the truth. So, let's persist in walking in godliness and faithfulness to the gospel passed down to us, so that God would, through us, save others from every spiritual danger and keep them spiritually healthy and strong. This has been Pastor Brad coming to you from DDQ headquarters.